Hey folks, welcome to the bedroom setup, which has a bunch of my retro machines and one newer machine, which is a Linux computer. Here's the computer. It is my old main rig, if you guys remember that. It is the Haswell system, is the H97M anniversary board. It has the Core i5 4460T in it. 32 gigs of 1866 RAM, and I decided to put a 1050 Ti in here. The Nvidia cards in Linux seem to do quite well. You know, I think we don't need to have the fan blowing on us while we're making a video. I decided to put a 1050 Ti in here for a graphics card. Turns out these actually work really well in Linux. I used it briefly before, and it actually worked pretty well. For an SSD, I have a Hyundai 120 gig SSD, a Hyundai Sapphire. Isn't it weird to see Hyundai make SSDs? But Hyundai is a parent company. I think Hyundai and Kingston both use the same company for their SSDs, though Hynix. So it's essentially a Hynix SSD. Two 1 terabyte hard drives. One's a Hitachi, one's a Western Digital, and of course a Blu-ray drive. So there you go. Oh yeah, 520 watt Seasonic power supply. And I did change the cooler on this board. I changed it to a Dynatron K17. These coolers are fantastic tower coolers for the price. They're pretty nice. I like these a lot, and it should do just fine on the i5. This system should be an excellent Linux computer for a long time, especially with the 1050 Ti in it with 4 gigs of VRAM. That should be excellent. So what I'm going to do is what my plans are is I'm going to put the root and swap partitions on the SSD, and then I'm going to use these two hard drives in a RAID 1 configuration on this system using Debian 9 stretch, which is in testing stage right now. Well, actually, it's in the release candidate stage right now, which is why I'm using it. So, yeah, there you have it. This should be an excellent computer. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm going to put all this stuff together and show you the end result. And show you. Okay, I put everything together mostly. There's the card in there. There's my little USB thing. This USB thing is really old, actually. It's so old that the two plugs you plug into the header are separated. I don't know where I got that. Probably the thrift store years ago. There's the SSD installed in this bay here. I had to use a 3.5-inch adapter, and everything's plugged in. I've tied these cables up best I can so that they're out of the way. It looks like crap, but it's functional and nothing's touching a fan, so it's fine by me. It's better than I usually do with cable management, as you guys remind me all the time. I don't mind though. It's no big deal. Yeah, there you go. Did I forget anything? Doesn't look like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the computer down there. I'm going to stick Debian on it off of my SD card here, and yeah, there you go. I'll be back once I have an installation and everything, and show you the works. Okay, I booted up the system into the BIOS just because I had to change a few settings. I figured I'd show off what's in here. It's the i5 4460T at 1.9 gigahertz, but it turbos up to I think 2.6 or something like that. It's got 6 megs of cache on it. Got 32 gigs of RAM in here, running at 1600. It's 1866 RAM, but 1600 is fine, honestly. Got the virtualization on it, a bunch of other stuff. Looks like this doesn't have any of the AMT stuff on it, which is good. So I think it's time that we boot into the Debian installer as the fire brigade rushes around outside. So I have the SD card plugged into one of my Rosewheel card readers, so that makes things very convenient. Alright, and we shall go into the expert install and install Debian. I'll be back when I'm done. Whee! Well, here we are. Debian 9 is installed, so let's take a quick look at the system monitor like we always do. Got your quad-core chip. There's your 30-something gigs of RAM. I did change the swappiness on this computer. It's another 32 gigs of swap. And it's Debian 9. i5-4460T at 1.9 gigahertz base clock, but it turbos itself, so it's good. This is so much more stable than the build I was planning to do, which I should show you guys. It was in this case, so it would have looked pretty much the same, but if you take a look over here, there's another board that you can't really see that well because the lights are off. This is an AMD APU based board that I have yet to disassemble. In fact, I have the box somewhere. I don't know where I put the box. But it's an AMD APU based system that I was going to use in here, and it is getting returned. It is one of the most unstable computers I've ever used in my life. This is the worst motherboard I have ever had. No joke. It is the worst. The APU itself is great, and the RAM is great, but the board itself is junk. So I'm done. I'm going to return this crap. I can't return the CPU, obviously. I have to sell that, but the CPU works fine, so that's not a problem. The board is getting returned. The RAM is more than likely getting returned because it was expensive. So I'll get all that money back, and yeah. It's a shame, but hey, the Haswell system is here to stay. It's amazing. It also has 32 gigs of RAM, just like that other board did. And yeah, I should have stuck with this in the first place. It also has the 1050 Ti in it, and that is running great in Linux, as you can see. Now, what is the setup of this? For this setup here in this room with all my retro stuff, the Linux machine in here is a Dell 1080p monitor that I bought from Road Geek a couple years ago. I got another one of these Logitech F310 controllers. These things are great. Apple mic from like 1990, I think. It's pretty old, but it works well enough for things like TeamSpeak and Discord and whatever else. I got some wrist rest. I got a wrist rest for my keyboard. This is a compact MX11800 keyboard with cherry brown switches and even a little trackball, which does work on this board since this board has real PS2 on it. If you guys remember the video about this board that I made a couple years ago. I have one of these Microsoft wheel mouse opticals. It's the white version that I found at a thrift store, which is pretty cool. And for the speakers, I'm using Newcomb NC 300s, and these speakers are fantastic, as you guys have heard in the past. So this is a pretty good setup. I'm liking this. So I can come in the bedroom when I need to use a full-bore Linux machine, and I can go out into my living room when I do work or want a game or something like that. This is just the Linux machine, essentially. And I can come in here if I just want to hang out in my room. And if I want to mess with my retro machines, it's also a prime opportunity to come in here. So it's good to have a Linux machine in here, especially a full-bore desktop. That T440p made a great main Linux machine, but this is better. This is much better because I can expand upon stuff on the desktop. Oh yeah, I did manage to put the hard drives in RAID 1, so that's why the hard drive light's just on. It's building the RAID still. So, yeah, this is working out to be a great machine. The T440p is still a Linux machine. I'm still using it as a full-bore Linux laptop. It's just not the main one I use anymore. This is the main Linux machine. Since I have this desktop and I don't want to get rid of it, that's what we're going to use it for. So, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. And have a good one, everybody. Ciao. More to come.